Hello, everybody out there in Radio Land, and hello, everybody that's watching online. You are tuned into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. You are tuned into the number one conservative talk show in all of New York State. Let's make it number one in the country. Thank you guys for tuning in today. We got a great show for you. And if you guys are following us online, please hit the like, share. All of that helps. Hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. And definitely retweet wherever you are and follow the page. Now, we've got a lot going on in our government right now. It looks like that we might be changing some of the leadership at the Fed. There might be a new person going into the Federal Reserve. I have heard whispers, which sound more likely to be true than not, that they're likely to start quantitative easing. And you got to ask yourself, well, Marcus, quantitative easing, that's a word. It means something clearly, but what does it really mean? Well, quantitative easing means that they're about to print a whole bunch of money, which means your money is about to be worth a whole lot less. And that's a serious conversation that we need to have that not enough people want to have, because we can talk about how things are so much of a pain to buy now because the cost on everything is so high. I saw a guy buy a grilled cheese. I think he bought 2 grilled cheese sandwiches and like 2 cups of soup and a drink, and it ended up being $77 at Panera Bread. I mean, of course, it's Panera Bread. Panera is very expensive, but that just goes to show you how expensive things are getting. And it's not just food at different stores and stuff like that. It's the different costs of food at the market. You go out, you go shopping, you look at the cost of meat right now. The cost of meat is insane. And one of the very interesting things that I always see, and it bothers me so bad, is when I go out to go shopping in New York, where I live in Rochester, New York, so Monroe County. We've got more than a couple of beef farms and dairy farms up here. We even have upstate milk up here. It's called upstate milk, right? So you think the dairy and the cheese and stuff like that. But when you go out to go shopping to grab some meat, none of the beef is from here. It's from Brazil or from some other country or this, that, and the third. And the same thing goes with apples, Even when it's apple season, most of the apples are from Peru or Chile. Why is that? Why is that? Can we have a conversation about how it impacts us locally not to be able to buy food that is local in our region? If we are supposed to be making our economy something that is not just self-sufficient, but that is self-perpetuating and keeps money in our own communities so we can enrich our communities instead of sending money overseas and stuff like that, we've got to get this under control. And it's a very serious issue, because how is all the food that we eat in America made somewhere else? And that's not all of the food, right? But it's a great deal. It's a great deal. And then you look at who owns the different food companies. They're owned by Chinese. They're owned by other countries. First of all, I don't want the Chinese owning any food because they hate us. They want to kill us. They want to take over the United States and topple the evil empire. They're no better than Iran. They want to get rid of us. But can we have that serious conversation? And it's a serious conversation we really need to have, because this goes into the cost of a lot of other items, right? So you think about it. You've got 2 issues with food not being local or materials not being local to either your region or to our nation. And that comes in when you have when it goes into purchasing power, right? It also goes into money circulation in your neighborhood. How long does the money stay in your own community? The more the money stays in the community, the more wealthy your neighborhood can be. And when I say wealthy, you'll say, well, Marcus, what does that mean? It means not necessarily like giant numbers of money, but it means that the money will continue to circulate in your local economy, which means that your community will still be able to be self-sufficient. It means that you're more likely actually able to build some wealth or to retain some wealth. But we can't have those conversations because perish the thought we actually purchase the goods that are made in our country. And with this administration that we have currently, with the Trump administration, we do have a benefit where they're trying to actually reshore a lot of the different production of goods and stuff to our nation. But a lot of these companies are telling us out of their mouth that for a lot of the highly technical jobs, like for these different manufacturing plants, for the cars, for the silicone wafer chips and stuff like that, those are computer chips, for all of these different things, they need more people. But we don't have an education system that has built the necessary quality of education into the platforms for education so that people can actually get these positions in these different jobs that are actually here now. So what do the companies do? Well, they only really have two options. They can either A, hire out to other foreigners in other countries, or B, they can automate. And we're seeing automation take a center stage right now in our economy. And I believe that people are not focused enough on everything that's going on with automation. Because if we're going to talk about what affects us as Americans, we have to talk jobs. We have to talk services. America is a consumer-based economy. But when you're a consumer and you don't have any money to consume, hello, you can't buy any goods if you don't got any money, right? So this is a concept that we need to get back to understanding. If we're going to be a consumer economy, our people need to have the money to buy the products that we make. Most of the products here that we have largely are made by foreign places, and because it's cheap labor. So they send our jobs overseas. And when the jobs go overseas, that means that there's less money circulating in our economy inside the US. And that means that the products are coming back here. And when the products get back here, well, where are the jobs for the people to buy the products that are made? You understand what I'm saying? This is a serious conversation we need to have. Hit the like, hit the share button, drop a comment, and let's see about making this happen so we can have a serious conversation about this and many other things. Be part of the conversation. Hit that thumbs up button and hit the retweet button. It don't cost you nothing. Now, there are many things going on throughout the world right now that are impacting us as a nation that we don't see because the news doesn't cover it. We don't see that there are riots and fights and pushback in European Union right now. We don't see what's going on over there. Well, Marcus, why are there fights and stuff going on over there? Well, let me tell you, because the continued expansion of their surveillance state has gone far too far, and people are starting to stand up and push back. But they don't want you to know that that's going on over there, so they don't cover it in the news over here, because they know that if you saw what was going on over there, you might get a good, bad idea, and you might decide that you want to stand up too. And of course, they couldn't have that possibly at all. Right where I live, the other day, our sheriff just announced, oh, we're going to network the drones and the license plate readers and the cameras and everything together. And we're going to automate everything. And there's going to be AI and everything. It's going to be monitoring you all day and everything. And people are out here celebrating like, yay. And I'm like, are you daft? Does your brain not work so well? Do you hear what this guy is saying? And I don't have any issue with him, but it's the whole concept of increased government surveillance that people need to be on the watch for. But people aren't. And it's terribly tragic because we as citizens are losing out on our freedoms, on our liberties. And, people talk about things like the Fourth Amendment, and they talk about illegal search and seizure, and they talk about this, and they talk about this and that and the third. Well, who's to tell the government what they can and cannot do? If you're going to say, okay, well, the government can surveil me all the time. That's not okay. I was just at a place earlier. We were talking about this concept. They talked about it a little different. I didn't really like the way they were talking about it because they were downing conservatives and Republicans and trying to blame them for a whole bunch of stuff without giving any credit to the Democrats for all the destruction that they did in relation to the criminal justice system. Now, I'm not going to really dive into that today. That is a great topic for another time on how the Democrats really ramped up the whole issue with the criminal justice system. And they try to say, oh, well, it's the Republicans, but it's the Democrats the whole time. It was the Democrats the whole time. But I bring this up because they were talking about how, oh, now some of the people that own the different companies and stuff like that do the prisons and stuff like that are moving more towards parole and probation. Well, where I live, we don't have any parole and probation. They just let all the criminals out and run wild and carefree while the citizens suffer, and more people are attacked every day and more people suffer every day and nobody does anything about it. But it's like it's okay. It's like it's okay. And the conversation was, oh, well, they're pushing more things like, oh, well, let's call them personal surveillance devices, like ways to monitor people at home. You think ankle monitors, stuff like that. But I was watching Elon Musk the other day, and he was like, yeah, we're going to get rid of prisons because now you won't even need a prison. You'll just need an Optimus robot to monitor your behavior 24/7 so that you don't do any crime. I said, what? That sounds crazy. Like, you guys, are you paying attention? I was watching the news this morning, and Cheddar, which is like, they kind of do like tech and what do you call it? Financial news type of stuff. And they were showing this guy who owns this company. I forget the name of the company. Excuse me on that one. But he had this robot, and the robot was doing kung fu. Okay. It looked like kung fu, could have been karate. Anyway, the robot was fighting, and the robot was putting the bangs to the guy, and the guy's got the shield on and the all the protective gear and everything, and the robot's beating him up, and the robot's called the T-800. And I was so upset. I'm like, you guys, like, really? Like, you're not even going to try to hide it? Like, the T-800 is the Terminator. Like, if you guys know the Terminator movies, the Terminator series, the robots that try to kill and erase all of humanity, that try to overthrow humanity. Yeah, that's the T-800, a super sophisticated robot that's programmed to kill humans. Like, and this is what he named his robot that's doing the fighting and the punching and the kicking. And again, but this goes back to what I was saying. Like Elon said, they're going to start pushing this type of stuff, and then the robots are going to control every aspect of our society. The surveillance and control component is already here, and we need to wake up, and we need to say no before it starts to really become too prevalent. Hit that like button, hit the share button. I see you guys watching. The likes and the shares and the comments make a very big difference. Okay, so definitely drop some flags in the comments, drop some thumbs up, drop some hearts, even just type in, I appreciate you, I love you, hello, whatever. So as we go into this even further, I want to talk a little bit about Venezuela. Now, and with Venezuela, I know a lot of people right now are like, oh, well, Venezuela, there's doing all types of drugs and stuff like that. But we've got a giant, massive military buildup over there. We're blowing their boats out of the water and all types of stuff. Essentially, what we've got going on over there is we've got a good old fashioned blockade, essentially. That it's not a blockade in its own name, but it's essentially a blockade. That's what we're trying to do over there, and Venezuela has all types of sanctions on their oil and stuff too. But we were buying oil from Venezuela under Biden. How did that happen? Can we have a conversation about that? Biden, why were we buying oil from Venezuela? But we can't have that conversation. These are the important conversations that we really need to have. Because what I try to impress upon everybody, as much as I'm a conservative, as much as I'm a Republican, people need to understand at the top of the pyramid, in the government, in Congress, okay, these people do not care about us. They don't. It's very simple because they're all part of the same social class. They go to the same schools. They have the same bankers. They go on the same vacations. They're all in each other's weddings. Like, I don't understand how people get this whole concept of my team, my team, my team, my team, when at the top of the pyramid, there are no teams. There are no teams. And we need to understand that, because where we can make the most impact is locally. That's why I encourage you. All of this stuff that we're talking about, you got to take a local aspect of it. Like we're talking about the surveillance that's going on. You got to take a local aspect of it. How can you address the surveillance that's growing with local legislation? The people that are closest to you are the people you need to engage with on this type of stuff. But not enough people do. Not enough people do. So with Venezuela, we've got a ton of troops over there. Now, remember, I think a large part of this is they've got a lot of people that are like, oh, Venezuela, Venezuela, look over here, look over here. I don't think it's about Venezuela. I don't think it's about Venezuela. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I believe very much so more it's about China's influence in the Caribbean and what's going on down there. And we need to be very cognizant about that. I've talked about this before on other previous episodes about how seriously embedded China is down in the Caribbean and stuff like that. But not enough people have these conversations. Not enough people know what's going on with China. China's done bought up almost all of Jamaica. And I might be over exaggerating a little bit, but ask somebody from Jamaica that's been back lately. Okay, they'll tell you it's very, very serious. And we need to have these conversations because China is our open enemy. People say, oh, well, it's one of our competitors. Anybody that says that it's our competitor is lying to you in your face. They are not a competitor. They are trying to erase us from the face of the earth. And we need to understand that. That's something we really, truly need to have a serious conversation about. And far too many people do not want to have that conversation. Because China is the ultimate enemy that is facing us today. You know, they talk about, oh, well, all of this fentanyl and all of this stuff and that stuff, all of these drugs and stuff. Well, wait, where are they coming from? Not Venezuela. Not Venezuela. They're coming from China. China's ushering in all of the drugs and the precursor chemicals and stuff like that into other countries so that they can come here. And people are like, oh, well, these little drug boats that they're blowing up in Venezuela, they couldn't possibly be coming all the way to the US because they're not going all the way to the US. What's wrong with you? You got to understand how this stuff works. Those drug boats are going to places like Cuba. They're going to places like the other little islands down there. There's so many little islands down there. It's hard for me to keep count. They're going to other places like Colombia and all of this other stuff. They're going to places like different countries, okay, that are very close to those areas. You know, they've also got offshore manufacturing going on out there, which is a whole nother serious conversation that we need to have a conversation about. But, you know, it's too much like right. So these are the conversations we need to have. Now, yes, we've got a lot of military power down there right now. But what does that mean for our stance as far as military power in the rest of the world? Well, it's not really that many because we've only got about 10,000 troops. So it's not number-wise that many. But we do have a carrier fleet group down there and some other assets and stuff like that. So it's very interesting to watch what's going on down there. And we need to keep an eye on that because that could very much well be a flashpoint. Now, do I think that we're going to go in there and put a ground war against Venezuela? Absolutely not. That would be foolhardy. That would be dumb. It wouldn't be worth it unless we're taking over Venezuela. Now, that's a separate conversation. And I was watching the Venezuela dude and some of his military people the other day talking about, we're fighting the imperialist country or whatever. America's not imperial. America is not an imperialist country. And that makes me sad and also upset. I wish America was an imperial country. We just taking over other countries. We just taking over other lands. So other people just say this. They spout this nonsense out when it's not even anything that the United States has anything that they do deal with. So it's really frustrating when you hear people say dumb stuff like that and they'll try to make it like it's true. It's not. America's not an imperial nation. Now, maybe we want to flex our muscle a little bit through military and financial warcraft, but we're not an imperial nation. We're not taking any territory or anything like that. The most we'll do is we'll support somebody that is a puppet dictator, which again, I don't agree with any of that. I don't think the U.S. should be doing any of that. If we're going to be involved in any other country, we need to be taking over the whole country or we shouldn't be involved at all. If it was up to me, we wouldn't be involved in a lot of things because we're not taking that over. So why are we getting involved? You know, we shouldn't have any armed troops anywhere in the world unless we're going to take over the place. Like outside of our bases, you know what I'm saying? Like we shouldn't be putting boots on the ground anywhere. The whole Afghanistan thing, the whole Libya thing, the whole Iraq thing, all of it. We're never going to take them over. We should have never been there. Liberation and freedom and bringing them democracy. We didn't bring them anything. We didn't bring them anything but death, destruction, and reprobates becoming in power. Same thing with Syria. And if Israel has their way, it'll be the same thing in Iran soon enough. Pray for Iran. Like, there are a lot of Christian conversions going on over there. So I'm really hoping and praying that some good stuff happens over there. I'm really hoping and praying. So fingers crossed. Now, as we have these important conversations, there's a lot of stuff that people aren't paying attention to. And it's so hard because there's so much going on. We can sit here and we can talk about the economy and what's going on with the economy, because I am very, very concerned about the Federal Reserve right now, because once they start to loosen these purse straps and that money machine goes burr, your dollar is going to be worth less. And the more that they print, the more worthless the dollar is going to be. And we need to have that serious conversation. But a lot of people don't want to have that conversation. Now, I guess, how can you say it? The chairman, Jerome Powell, is going back and forth with Trump. They're having some tension there. As you guys might know, Trump's never really liked Powell. I don't like Powell. Powell is trash, okay? I believe that he's done a number of things that have, let me rephrase that. I know for a fact he has done a number of things that have disserviced our nation, like not lowering interest rates the way that they should and increasing interest rates the way that he should, and printing up a whole bunch of money. Don't get me started. If it's up to me, abolish the Fed, create sound money. Our money needs to be backed by gold. And that's the whole next story that's going to come out, where we're pushing towards the US digital currency, the digital dollar. People, we got a lot going on. You got to wake up. So what's happening is the Fed is expected to cut rates. Okay. So if they cut rates in theory, and this doesn't always happen, but in theory, different loan rates should come down. Different mortgage rates should come down. But we don't always see that when they cut rates, which is very questionable. And we need to have a serious conversation about the way our monetary system and our loan value system works in the United States of America. But I doubt any politician will ever really want to do that. But these are the real conversations we need to have so we can better understand what's going on. Once they cut the rates, okay, and it looks like they're due for some deep cuts. Who knows if that'll even happen? But if they do some serious cuts, that means money's going to get real cheap. Okay, that means people are going to be able to take out big loans real cheap. But the fact of the matter is, it probably won't be you. It'll probably be big institutional investors, big giant corporations, and people's cousins that are all in the know and connected. Not you as the average everyday American citizen, because they don't really care about you. And these are serious issues. Look at the housing prices. They're like, oh, well, the housing prices are up so high. Instead of just letting them come down natural or getting rid of all the illegal aliens, which are driving up the housing costs, we should just put in a 50-year mortgage. That's not okay. That's not okay at all. And we need to have these serious conversations. So one of the things we just mentioned was the deportation of illegal aliens. And there is a massive push for illegal aliens to stay in this country. Like, why are people pushing for that? Like, do people not understand the serious impact of illegal aliens on our economy, on our social safety nets, on our other American people? Like, do they not understand? Or do they just not care? Is it because they've been told that this is now the spirit of the moment and they need to clam on that? Is this why? What is going on? You see all of these people out here supporting illegal aliens, and you have to ask yourself, well, wait a second. Who's supporting us as citizens? I had this conversation the other day with one of my city councilmen. You know, my city councilman is out there talking about, oh, well, I guess the ICE arrested some guy who's been here for like 20 years. It's here illegally or whatever the case is. And he was like, yeah, they should free that guy and this, that, and the third. They did a whole little march outside and nonsense and stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, they should free him. And I'm like, free him? Well, any judge that would give him bond would be a fool, because you guys are out here talking about you'll protect him from the police and you'll hide him and stuff like that. Any judge that would let that guy out of jail is a fool. And you know why? Because you guys made that situation. You guys have made this type of situation where this impact from the mass I guess you would say, ejections from our nation is coming from. We didn't need this. This didn't need to happen, but it happened because all of these people have just turned a blind eye as the illegal aliens were coming into this country because, it wasn't a problem then. And now that Trump's trying to do something about it, it's a problem because it's Trump. But no, it's a problem for our Social Security. It's a problem for Medicaid and Medicare. It's a problem for our schools. It's a problem for our housing. And all of these things are impacted by illegal immigration and illegal aliens, okay, just hopping across the border, coming here in trailer trucks, or coming here on shipping container crates on the different ships. Like, can we talk about that though? No, because these people out here, that many of them are American citizens, are out here championing for people that aren't even our citizens, as our citizens languish. We've got crazy issues, as we talked about earlier, with the cost of food and the cost of living. Can we talk about those issues? Can we resolve those issues for our citizens first before we get all concerned about some illegal aliens? Can we do that? Like, can we prioritize improving the educational system for our students? Can we prioritize actually making it so many of our citizens aren't housing insecure? Can we prioritize the fact that we've got, in my city alone, we've got 2,000 homeless of school-age children? Where are they? Why are there 2,000 homeless of school-age children that are citizens, and you got the nerve to talk about some illegal aliens? The priorities. It's egregious. We got a couple of comments. Let's see, somebody talking about some comments. Let's see what we got. Somebody says, Andrew on YouTube says, it's all about the Benjamins. That's 100% right. Who's that? Lorena? Lorena says, guys, stand up and stand up. Amen. We got to stand up, and we got to stand up now, because I don't think people take seriously enough how this illegal alien situation is, right? And they'll say, well, nobody's illegal, because it sounds catchy and it sounds nice and it sounds sweet, right? They'll say, oh, undocumented people are nobody's undocumented. It sounds nice and it sounds good. Oh, this is a nation of immigrants. Don't hit me with that one, because we're going to have a serious problem. We are not a nation of immigrants. Don't start me with that nonsense, okay? Just so that you can try to justify some nonsense. They do that type of stuff with Christianity too. They'd be like, oh, well, you should love everybody because you're a Christian. You don't know anything, the first thing about Christianity. Shut your mouth. You understand what I'm saying? Like, these people crazy. They just say whatever sounds good to justify their nonsense, and I'm not with it. But the fact of the matter is we need more people that are going to stand up to this nonsense, and not enough are doing it right now. And because not enough people are doing it right now, more and more people say, oh, well, it's not a big issue. It's a big issue. And I'll tell you why right now. Why is illegal immigration a big issue? Because it affects you on every single front, especially social safety nets. We just had a whole bunch of people complaining about, oh, well, they're going to cut off these services for food stamps and SNAP and all of this other stuff, cash assistance and all of that. Really? That's a problem for you? Okay, bet. Let's talk about those services. Well, do you know that a disproportionate number of illegal aliens are using those services? No, you don't know that? Why don't you know that? Because the Democrats for years have been telling us that they're not taking those services at all. But now all of this sudden, now that they got cut off, and now that they're talking about, oh, people are going to reapply, they're like, oh, what about the illegal aliens? They need the services too. No, they don't. No, they don't. They have their whole own country. We got people that are struggling here. Where I live, we got about a 60% housing insecurity rate. We got a 53% food insecurity rate. And you got the nerve to tell me about some illegal aliens, and our city is a sanctuary city for illegals? Come on now, stop it. Don't play in my face. And our elected officials care more about them than they care about us. And this is the serious issue. This is the serious issue, because we can't have these conversations, because right now they're trying to make evil seem good and good seem evil, and they'll call it right to its face, and they'll say, yes, good is evil and evil is good. Don't protect yourself. Don't care about your nation. And this is crazy to me, right? Because the Bible will tell you about this. The Bible says that they'll say there'll be an age where they'll tell you that evil is good and good is evil. And that's crazy because this is what we hear right now, And I'm not going to say that this is the end of times, but it definitely is being positioned to look that way to a lot of people. And I want to say it's Isaiah 5:20, maybe. I think it's Isaiah 5:20. And let me see if I can find that here. Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who turns darkness to light and light to darkness, who replace bitter with sweet and sweet with bitter. Isn't that right where we are? Isn't that right where we are right now? That's about right where we are right now. And this is kind of crazy because we can't have these serious conversations because whenever you try to take it back to the Bible or something like that, you're like, oh, you're pushing your religion on me. You can't talk about religion. But our country was founded on biblical principles. And that's why it's very much important to talk about these issues. But can we, though? That's the real question. Can we talk about what's going on? No, because when you start to talk about what's going on, people get all in their feelings. They get all huffy and stuff like that. That's why you see all of these fake apostate churches. May they be anathema. Okay, you see them out there with all of this rainbow alphabet nonsense going on, carrying on, telling people that, oh, it's okay and love everybody. All of this nonsense and this hippie Jesus bull jive. That's not what Christianity is about. You understand what I'm saying? Did you see the flower child people push the Reconquista in Spain and Portugal to reestablish Christianity in over there? Did you see the hippie flower child Christians that were fighting back to protect Christians in early Rome? Did you see the hippie flower child people fight back against the Ottoman Turks? Like, where is this concept of this weak, passive PC Christianity coming from? Like, some of the stuff that the church fathers would say, like, I'd be concerned about repeating on my show because we're on air. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we might get an FCC complaint. Like, if you listen to Saint John Christopher, I know that's not how you use it, Chrysanthio or whatever his name is. I can't pronounce his name. I always mess it up. But Saint John Christopher, he's a bad man. And he'll tell you exactly how it is, but people don't really talk about the church fathers. If you read St. Augustine, if you read a number, just so many of them, they'll tell you what really is going on, because somebody had to, and back then they actually did. I'll spell his name for you so you can go look him up. St. John. Chrysostom. Okay. He used to be the Archbishop of Constantinople. So, I mean, you're talking about real people in authority in the church, and we can't talk about these type of situations. Let's see. Do we got a comment? Is that a comment? Can anybody, let's see. Can anybody remember how many men and women that have died to protect the border? Let's see, to protect all of our countries, all the countries have borders. I get what you're saying. So essentially they're saying with all of the countries in the world, right? That's essentially why we fight wars, right? We fight wars over borders to keep our own territory or our own land. Sometimes people will invade your land or your territory for either innocuous reasons, something stupid, or for resources. But it's a fact that we need to stand up and we need to push back against this nonsense that's going on right now. Because if we don't do it now, when will it ever happen? Somebody else made a comment. Let me see. Let's see. I don't know. It won't post. But yeah, drop comments, hit the like button, hit the share button. Let's continue this conversation because these are the important conversations. Now, I want to talk about this Isaiah 2021, where it says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, because we just had that movie. What was the movie with the woman? What's her name? Alba, and she's playing the witch anathema, which is like, look up the word anathema. You know what I'm saying? Go look it up or whatever the heck, or it's just madness, right? And it's wicked for good, right? Like wicked for good. No, there is no wicked for good. You can't be wicked and be for good. Like that's not how that works. But this is how they try to cultivate the mind, and this is what they try to push into your whole concept and your head and stuff like that. And when we don't talk about these conversations, then nobody's going to. Her name was Alphaba, but it's like anathema. But we'll go into that another conversation another time. You know, it's really sad when we see these people pushing all this evil on our country and in our world. And the question is, when will you, seeing what is evil happening and going on, stand up? Because it's going to be up to us, because nobody's coming to save us. And this is what I tell everybody all the time. So if you guys are watching online, you can see right to the sides right here. Okay, that's how you can help out the show, or right down there. If you're listening on the radio, please go on the Patreon for the radio station on WRFZ Rochester Free Radio. And you can donate there to help support the show. If you're online, right there is the information to support. All right, so let's have this conversation as we move towards what's going on with the Supreme Court, because it looks like the Supreme Court is going to take up a couple of different cases, but let's talk about the Supreme Court for 2 seconds. So what's the job of the Supreme Court, you guys? I don't think enough people know or enough people talk about it. The job of the Supreme Court is very simple. Is it in the Constitution? If it's not in the Constitution, kick it back to the states. But what we see is we have the Democrats far too often say, oh, well, we want the ruling this way because it's what makes us feel good on the inside, or it's what is ever morally virtuous this week. No, that's not what the Supreme Court is based on. It's based on the Constitution. Is it in the Constitution? No, it's not in the Constitution. Kick it back. If it is in the Constitution, they adjudicate it. Okay? And this is what the important conversation is. So, but nobody wants to have that conversation, because you hear the Democrats on, oh, we need to stack the Supreme Court so that we can get the votes our way, the way we want it. That's not how the Supreme Court has been set up. It's not, and it's a problem. It's a very, very, very serious problem. You guys, it's very frustrating to watch what's going on over and over again, and the crazy stuff that's happening in our nation. How these Democrats say that they're for all of our institutions, but really they just want the institutions to do what they want them to do. And that's a serious, serious problem right now. So if we don't pay attention as citizens and speak up and speak out against these issues, nobody's going to. You guys, Congress is a do-nothing Congress. We just had Tim Burchett the other day. I saw him doing an interview, and Tim Burchett, he's in the House of Representatives. Love that guy. Don't always agree with him a lot, but love him nonetheless. But he was like, yeah, man, he's like, Congress doesn't do nothing. The Republicans don't do nothing. The Democrats don't do nothing. They're all just towing the line. They're all just there to go along to get along. It's so serious. It's so serious. And we have to remember that it's up to us as the citizens to hold them accountable in office. And we must do that. We can't think that, oh, somebody's going to be a savior. Oh, Trump is going to be a savior. Oh, Kamala is going to be a savior. Oh, nobody's going to be a savior, y'all. I'm going to tell y'all right like it is, the way that it is right now. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us, and we are the ones who have to stand. That's why there's so much corruption in the government right now. That's why the government never seems to quite right. Okay, and they always doing wrong. Why? Because the people don't stand up and push back against the insanity. There are basic, simple issues that we can all agree on, which one should be sound money, right? Like, why isn't there a national outcry about the money lenders and about those pushing high interest rates on our citizens, bankrupting the everyday citizens? Usury is illegal in Christianity. Usury used to be illegal in the United States of America, and usury is illegal in Islam. So why is this something that is okay? Why is this something that is okay? Why is it being allowed to happen? You know, we need to have that conversation. Why aren't the people standing up and pushing back? You would think that they would. You would think that they should. But what's happened is people become too involved in their own stuff on a daily basis in their daily lives, because that's what the government and the people at the top in power want you to do. They want you to be completely distracted from everything that's going on so that you can't even think about tomorrow, more or less what's going on in 5 years. This is why we need to pay attention. And it's just so frustrating to me. It really, really, really grinds my gears. Hit the like button, hit the share button. You guys are listening to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams on WRFZ 106.3 FM, Rochester Free Radio. Don't change that dial. And if you're on air with us listening, make sure you tell your friends, your family, hey, tell your enemies down the street. Tune in Mondays, 2:30 to 4 p.m. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear. And if you are online, drop some hearts, drop some likes, hit some shares. All of that helps get it out to more people. And if you drop a comment, we'll do our best to pop it up on the screen and make you part of the conversation. So we're just going to fly through a couple of headlines because I want to get somewhere. So if you guys saw the other day when there was a bomber, right? I don't even know if you call him a bomber. Nothing blew up, right? So the alleged guy that put these bombs in front of the RNC headquarters in Washington on January 6th, and he also put a bomb in front of the and I don't even know why I'm saying him, right? We'll talk about that in a second. And he also put a bomb in front of the DNC headquarters. Now, this is all allegedly, because if you watch the videos, man, that's a whole woman. That is a whole woman. That's not even a feminine man or whatever. That is a whole woman that did that. I mean, you're talking about like 89% is a whole woman. And then they showed the pictures of this guy. And I'm like, yeah, no, that wasn't him. It wasn't him at all. I mean, unless, he can just completely adopt all types of mannerisms that would be unlikely to his height and weight ratio and his gender. Like, I mean, maybe. But let's be real, no. And it's crazy to me that this only came up like about a month after, what was it? It was Project Veritas was doing an expose with a whistleblower from the FBI and the Capitol Police that said that was one of their people. Like, hello, can we have that conversation? Like, all of this sudden now it's happening. And then the craziest thing is that happened. They arrested this guy on the day that the Luigi Mangione trial starts. You mean to talk about distractions and too much stuff going on all at one time? Like the Luigi court thing that day didn't even really get covered like that because this guy was going on, and that's something that we can't talk about at all. We need to, but nobody wants to talk about that. I don't believe that Luigi did it. I'm sure that he's guilty of something, and he's cocksure of himself. And I definitely don't believe that he is a good person, but I don't think he did that. It's possible, but it's doubtful. Excuse me, I got to blow my nose. I mean, it's so disgusting. It really makes you want to spit. Now, in some other positive news, Donald Trump has announced $12 billion for a farmer aid package. So that's something nice. I have questions about that, though, because isn't that something that would have to go through Congress? So, again, a large linchpin of a lot of this money, of a lot of these projects and stuff like that is Congress. And Congress is a do-nothing group. So we really have to talk about these conversations. So the $12 billion will be through the, the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. So that'll be interesting. And the rest will go through farmers whose crops have failed, crops who fall outside of the umbrella of the assistance program, which is largely like crop insurance and stuff like that. But there's some other stuff that should be looked into. Now, as we have this conversation about farms, it goes back to my original conversation. That's important. Our food is important. But when you start to realize that a lot of our farms are owned by people like Bill Gates, you have to start asking yourself questions. Like, if he wants us all to eat fake meat and he wants us all to eat all of this stuff that's terrible for us, what's really going on? What are we really doing? Like, can we have a conversation about that? We need to restore agriculture in our country, and we need to get all of these people that are here in our country that are forcing all of these terrible regulations on the different meat packing industries, the poultry industry, the beef industry, and the rest of agriculture that are hobbling us. You know, there are so many rules and regulations that they've added. It's ridiculous, and it's harming our food and our food supply because they want to drive up the cost of meat and stuff like that because they want you to eat the bugs. Isn't that what they tell you? The World Economic Forum, eat the bugs, you know? You'll own nothing and be happy. And that's the way everything is going. That's why everything is a subscription base right now. That's why if you have a nice new car like a BMW, you got to subscribe to get those heated seats. You know, like what? Like, wow. It's like when you buy a video game now, they just give you a little key and now you got a key, but you don't have a physical disc. You don't really own anything. And then you got to pay for the different seasons and stuff like that. You'll own nothing and be happy. Now they're making it so rent is basically all you can do. You'll never really own anything. And if you do, the way they're pushing these 50-year mortgages, you'll never own anything because you'll die before you pay off a 50-year mortgage. Like, we're not having real serious conversations. We are on a firm march to a totalitarian dystopian society. And we need to really be having that serious conversation. And I don't think a lot of people are ready for that conversation because that would be too much like right. But we need to have those conversations. I could talk about sensational stuff like Candace Owens or the TPUSA drama that's going on. And I could get a lot more clicks and a lot more links and a lot more comments and stuff like that. But that's not even remotely that important. All of that stuff is a distraction. It's a distraction from what's really going on in our country. And we need to have some serious conversations instead of all of this, ooh, what's shiny now? Ooh, what's shiny over here? Because that's all that's going on. And it's such a problem. Like, I need a better word than problem because problem isn't generous enough for what's really going on. Because, I mean, it's causing all types of issues because people can't have the actual conversations that are needed to be had. Like, it's just not happening. Like I said earlier, you look at what's going on in Europe right now. Did you guys hear about Elon Musk? They're slapping him with like a what was it? No, it was a $140 million fine, right? And Elon Musk is like, oh, we've got to get rid of the EU, abolish the EU. Well, I agree with him. That's number one. But I don't agree with him for that reason, you know. But I'm concerned because we got people and influencers all online talking about, oh, Donald Trump should support Elon Musk, and he should be putting tariffs and using monetary lawfare against Europe. And I'm like, that seems a little scuzzy. That seems a little scuzzy because it's to the benefit of one individual and his company, his corporation. That seems a little scuzzy. Can we talk about that, though? No, probably not. We've got this whole thing going on with this Ukrainian peace deal right now, also over there in Europe, because the people in the European Union don't want anything more than total war with Europe, because they know that if they can have a war with Europe, then what they can do is they can use that war for Europe as a distraction. Not only can they use it as a destabilizing feature in their own homelands so that they can grab more power and more surveillance, they also can defeat one of the few enemies that they have that is a firm Christian nation. And I promise you, after they go after Russia, I guarantee you that they make it look like something happened in Poland too. And I guarantee you that they go after Hungary as well. They've already tried to assassinate the president of Hungary multiple times. They tried to assassinate the president of Slovenia. Okay, they tried to assassinate a number of the people that are pro-Christian and pro-independence of their own nation over there in that area. The EU is no good. They are nothing but monsters. They are what Hitler envisioned. You understand what I'm saying? Like one complete block of individuals that are all one power center for the Western world. That's exactly what Hitler wanted. And you can tell me what you want. You don't agree. You do agree. Whatever the case is, I'm telling you what it is. You don't got to believe me because I'm saying it. Believe me because I'm telling you. You know? And that's another crackpot that's gotten a lot of fame lately is Hitler, which drives me nuts, right? Like, why is he even getting all types of claim to fame? I'll tell you why he's getting a claim to fame now. Because you got all of these Nancys that never wanted to talk about the Nazis and why they were so bad. So they let the Jews carry all the water for them, right? So the Jews crafted the whole narrative on why the Nazis were bad. And the only thing that anybody knows about the Nazis are bad is they were racist. Well, but they can't tell you what they did to black people that was racist. How come you never hear any stories about what the Nazis did to black people that were racist? The only people that you hear stories about that Nazis did something wrong to was the Jews or the Khazarians or the Ashkenazis, whatever type of Jew you want to label them, the European Jews that are not actually from the Levant, that are not actually from Israel, which were originally going to be sent to Morocco, not the Palestine. Okay, but we can't have those conversations because when you start to have those conversations, they try to shut you down or call you anti-Semitic or call you whatever the case is, label you all types of things. And because of that, we can't have the real conversations about why Nazism is bad. Because it's socialism, you guys. It's putting more power in the hands of the federal government. And that's exactly the opposite of what our country stands for. We stand for rugged individualism. We stand for American exceptionalism, not for the continued expansion of government. But we see the continued expansion of government more and more and more. And it's a harm to our society. You know, there is right now a lot of people that are on the left and on the right that are pushing to expand the government one way or another. So the government has more control. But can we talk about that? And you wonder why the Nazis are growing in such a fashion when people hear Hitler talk about the different things that he talked about, because he was talking right about a lot of things. He was talking right about a lot of things. The problem is he was talking about the solutions to those problems were more government. Hello. The solution to the problem are not government. What was it? Reagan? Reagan said, he said, you know, the most alarming 8 words in the American language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. You know, like, can we not understand that? And this is the problem, because for too long, we have let these people, which claim to be Jews, carry water on why the Nazis are bad. Well, that isn't doing enough anymore. We should have never let them carry the water on that. We should have been very clear about why the Nazis were bad and not let the Jews write the story on that, because their only story that they had to say is, oh, they treated us bad. And that ain't flying with nobody anymore. Nobody really cares, because what they see is they associate now the current nation state of Israel with Judaism. And if you're on the radio, I'm using air quotes because I don't associate it with that. And that's a problem, because most of the people there are secular anyway. They're not practicing Jews like we would think, or they're Talmudic Jews, not actually real practicing Jews, which is a whole separate conversation. When you out there practicing the Kabbalah, and the Talmud and the, what's the other one? I forget it. You're not really practicing the ancient Hebrew religion. Like, come on now. But again, most of these people over there are secular, right? So we need to have that conversation, but you can't, because the second that you do, you're anti-Semitic. So we can't have the real conversations that need to be had. And it's a problem. I'm telling you right now, I'm watching a rise of people associating with Nazism. And I shouldn't even really say Nazism. I should say Hitler himself, right? Okay, Mr. Mustachio, but you can't talk about him because they'll silence you. They'll downplay your video or whatever the case is. But if we can't talk about him, we can't explain and express why he was wrong. What was going on after World War I, right? After the Weimar Republic fell, what was going on that led to the rise of Hitler? Well, the economy was in tatter. People were suffering, right? Why? Because of financial issues. Why were they suffering? Because of financial issues. Because of the loans and stuff that they had to pay back for all of these reparations that Germany had to pay to all of these other countries for a war that Germany didn't even start. They were only upholding their what do you call those? Treaties, right? Like, but we can't have that conversation. So that, in fact, led up to the outcome of where we see Hitler rise to power. He rose to power off of saying stuff like, yeah, man, you know, the people that are the workers in our country, the everyday average people, deserve better. They deserve more, and we're not getting it from the government right now. And I'm like, shoot, I see exactly the same thing right now. Whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, the average everyday people are getting stomped upside the head. And you wonder why people are falling in line with Mr. Mustache. Like, this is a serious, serious problem. He's like, yeah, there's a small group of elites, largely run by these people, which he said were the Jews, and they control the media, and they control the banks, and they control all of this. Well, I mean, dang, what are they accused of now in our country? Controlling the media and controlling the banks and controlling the, and you can't have these conversations. So they try to silence these conversations. So more people are like, whoa, that guy really sounds like he had something on the cap. And because they associate what he's saying with their reality now, which is true, by the way, they miss why Hitler was so bad, because he was a socialist. Like, I don't understand how people don't put these two things together, but I do know why. I do know why. And it's because they never let you talk about it. And they've continued to let these Zionists, that are pushing to bring about the apocalypse, to usher in their Messiah, which is nothing more than the Antichrist, and you look at what's going on right now. People were starting to have, they call it the great noticing, right? How all of these people have ties back to so-called European Ashkenazis or European Khazarians and stuff like that, who they now call themselves Jews, right? Which we know are not the DNA-based Jews that were from the land in the Levant, in Palestine. We know that. Like, there's no second guesses about that. But we know that. And the problem is now you see all of these people tracing all of these issues back to these people, which are from this area, which are from these banking families and stuff like that. And it's a very serious issue, because if we can't talk about it and people are seeing it, there's an undertone there that's very problematic. And if you can't speak about it, people get upset. If you can't question it, who are you really in allegiance to? And we see that on the rise right now. And as that started to rise and people started to notice, what happened? All out of nowhere, all of a sudden, bing, bang, boom. Now it's the Muslims. Now the Muslims are the problem. And now all of the 7K mafia people are out there talking about the Muslims and Islam. They even got this cosplaying fake Christian named Jake Lang out there running around in Michigan causing problems. Talking about he's burning the Quran and he's fighting for our country and Christianity when he's not even a Christian. Hello? Is this thing on? Maybe I need to tap it to make sure. He's not even Christian. He's Jewish. Like, are we serious? Like, and he's playing in our face. He is our version of Jasmine Crockett, how she portrays herself to be some hood person from the hood. You understand what I'm saying? She's not from the hood. She's from an upper middle class neighborhood. She's got her law degree. There ain't nothing hood about that woman. She don't know what the struggle looks like. Same thing with this Jake Lang character and this Valentina Gomez. She the same as him with her fake Colombian self. I wish we could deport herself. She out here cosplaying like she's some sort of a conservative when all she is an embellishment of what people believe conservatives to be, a caricature out there shooting dolls and stuff in the back of the head saying that we should execute people and all types of crazy stuff. Then she got a whole Cybertruck plastered with the Israeli flag. Stop playing in my face. You know what I'm saying? And about a year ago, and you can go look this up on Valentina Gomez, about a year ago, she said, oh, anybody that stands with AIPAC is evil and this, that, and the third. And then this year she said, oh, AIPAC hit me up. And now she's all in Israel taking pictures and putting all these pictures of the Israeli flag on a Cybertruck and all this other nonsense. Bro, you bought and sold. So if you said that was evil, anybody that takes money from AIPAC is evil, then you're evil. Very clearly so. To your own admission. It's like Muhammad in the Quran. He's like, yeah, if anybody is against God and it's not true or whatever, they'll have their heart will feel like it explodes. And then he's like, oh man, it feels like my chest is exploding. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not quoting the exact text from the Quran, but that's essentially it. Go look that up. That's some crazy nonsense too. He died exactly the way he said that somebody would if they were lying on God. That's kind of crazy. So these are conversations that we need to seriously have. But we got all these influencers out here, these 7K mafia people that Netanyahu trotted out on the TV talking about, oh, these are all my American influencers that I bought and paid for, and we're going to push them to say good stuff about Israel. Now, remember, the nation of Israel is not the Jewish people or the practitioners of Judaism. It's just some country where they moved a lot of these Europeans to that identified as Jews after World War II. Okay, they were going to move them to Morocco, but they moved them there. There's also a collective that they're building up in Ukraine, which we need to have a conversation about again at some point. In Ukraine, the Jews are building a separate carve out for themselves in Ukraine, which actually is kind of in the territory and lands that they had traditionally because they're Khazarian. But again, we can't talk about that conversation. Okay, that's where their people are actually from, but we can't talk about that conversation. That's why they're making these carve outs over there in Ukraine for the Jews. We need to have this as a serious conversation to have so we can know what's going on in the world and how things are really happening. But it's too much because when you start to have these real conversations, nobody wants to listen, or they'll deplatform you, or they'll take you off the air, or whatever the case is. That's why I'm so glad that I can talk with you guys here on this show every Monday. So please, if you guys are listening to us on the radio, go to the Patreon for Rochester Free Radio, donate, put in the caption, The Divide with Marcus C. Williams, and it'll go as a credit towards our show. If you are online, right there in the sides or down below, you'll see the information. So please do that. Donate to the show. Help us get the word out. Please make sure if you're listening, like I said, on the radio, go to the Patreon, Rochester Free Radio, and put in the comments The Divide. Now, as we go back into this, we need to have these conversations because they're ever so important now more than ever. To say, oh, well, Israel doesn't have an outweighed interest in our nation when they're out there actively geofencing around Christian churches. Go look up geofencing. It's like a targeted marketing situation. Geofencing around Christian churches so that they can push propaganda to elevate Israel to these Christians, to make them think that they should support this nation, which you got to start to ask yourself, where is the benefit for us? You really got to ask yourself. I was watching something the other day, and this guy said, they say, bless Israel. If you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. And he said, well, since 1948 and stuff like that, since we've been so supportive of Israel, well, what have we gained? He said, we got less, our economy's messed up. He said, our money is messed up. He said, we've got more alphabetism. We got feminism. We got all these other isms. And our nation has essentially been turned into a shell of its own former self this whole time that we've been blessing Israel, allegedly. So is it a blessing or is it a curse? And I said, God, golly gosh, you really got to start to ask yourself a question. And is he right? Like, I watched PragerU. I like some of the stuff that they do. I don't agree with everything, but Daniel Prager, he's devout Jew. I don't agree with everything he says, but I like him. I like some of the stuff that they do. And he said one time, he said, he said all of the isms, all the feminism, the alphabetism, all of the stuff, all of that came from Jews. He said that. A Jew said that. So can we have that conversation? Maybe we should be having that conversation, but nobody wants to have that conversation because the second that you say something about that, then you're the bad guy. And this is something I want to impart on you because this is the important conversation, part of the conversation we really need to have. Because they have such an outweighed control and power structure in our nation, we have lost sight of certain things because they control the narrative. Like I said, we got people that are sticking up for socialism and Nazism because they've controlled the narrative on that this whole time. And we haven't even been able to explain why it's wrong or why it's bad directly because all people know is, oh, they were mean to the Jews. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Well, guess what? Most people aren't Jews, and they see that the Jews don't really care for them. So this is a problem. This is a problem. So the old concerns where they tried to say, oh, well, we were the victims of this and that and the third, that's not working with the people anymore. The people aren't trying to hear that anymore. And because they're not trying to hear that anymore, now we can't even get them to understand why National Socialism is a problem. But you got all of these people in this country, all of these Democrats in this country, Mandani, Sanders, AOC, they call themselves socialists, that say that they support the country, they want bigger government, they want the government to do more things, and all of this stuff. That's National Socialism. That's Nazism. And then they're the same people that try to shut down anybody that's talking about them. Okay, look at what happened during COVID. If you question anything during COVID, they deplatformed you. They got rid of you. Okay, you couldn't even go out to go to the shopping market because you needed to have your Vax passport. That's nothing more than the Nazis. That's Nazi Germany right here, right now. Can we have that conversation? No, we can't. We can't have that conversation, but we need to. We really desperately need to. And I pray that we can have that conversation at some point very soon, because the further and further that time goes on and this stuff doesn't get talked about, the worse and worse things are. And the more, what would you say, highly volatile the situation in our nation becomes. Now you've got these people that have pushed all of this anti-Islam stuff. And yeah, Islam is a problem in our country. These Saracens that are coming from all of these sand countries over here that don't want to integrate into our society, that only want to be very cliquish and collectivist, okay, that only want to help themselves, that aren't really interested in benefiting our country, our nation as a whole, or actually conforming to our nation as a whole. They don't give a flying monkey's uncle about our country. And yes, they absolutely are a problem, but all of the sudden they're a problem all of the sudden. And you got to start asking yourself, when things are a problem all of the sudden, because I've been talking about this for years, that's a problem. But when things are a problem all of the sudden, ask yourself why. Is it a distraction? Is there some there? And a thing can have some there, but also be a distraction at the same time. And right now there is some there. There is some there, but it's also a problem. And also it popped up just magically at the same time that people started to notice things about the people who are really behind different orchestrated issues in our nation, and who's funding what. You know, and we need to have that conversation. We really do. Who runs what? Who really runs what's really going on? Who runs stuff? That's what we need to be asking, because it's serious. It's very, very serious. And we can see that the people that we assume are running things in the country are not really the ones that are running the country. We need to have these conversations now more than ever. Let's take a look at a couple of things real quick. If we were to take the government at being the government, right? And we say, okay, well, and there's a song I want you guys to check out also. It's by Run the Jewels. I don't always agree with Killer Mike, but I do agree with him on this. You know, the song's called Lie, Cheat, and Steal. I can't remember what album it is. I think it's off of Run the Jewels, the original album. And it says, we need to question the power and authority structures. And it says, like, who really runs the man that runs this? Well, who does? Look at Congress, right? Why do they always seem to be passing bills and stuff like that either do nothing or disadvantage the people? I was, again, back to the interview with Tim Burchett. He was like, yeah, man, he's like, the Congress doesn't do anything. They'd rather name post offices than do something collectively to actually address the issues of the American citizens. Now, this guy's in Congress. He's telling you what time it is. Okay, you got to listen or you don't listen. You know, you pick. But it's very serious. We also have a number of other things and issues going on around the world right now, and I don't think a lot of people even know what's going on in places like Mali or Benin. Okay, both of them just had coups. I guess, and the news and the information is still coming out about Benin. Okay, it looks like the people that were trying to do a coup were foiled, but we don't really know. And in Mali, they're out there killing Christians and trying to, and I don't know if they successfully overthrew part of the government or what the situation is, but that's a bad, bad situation over there also. But we can't talk about that, and we can't even really get any news in the US about what's going on over there. And we need to. We need to. This is another problem. I believe that the whole North Africa and the Levant need to be restored to Christianity, because what's happening to Christians over there is crazy. And if you go, I just want you to go look up in Google later after this, just do the AI search about what's going on with the violence over there. Just look it up, and it'll tell you that they're raping Christians, they're beheading Christians, all types of crazy stuff. And this is happening right now. And it's not in the news. I haven't seen one news thing here locally about any of that. Why is that? Because they don't want you to talk about it? Is that something that we should really talk about? You know, they don't care. They don't want you to know what's going on. But I mean, hey, this is why we're here on this show. This is why we're having these serious conversations. And I encourage you to go look into what I'm talking about, because the show is only so long, so I can only talk about so many topics. And as you guys know, I can talk good and I can talk for a while. So I'd like to expand on a lot of these things much more seriously. But we really need to have some of these important conversations. Please hit the like button, hit the share button. It does not cost you anything. Check out the sides right there if you want to support, and make sure you follow. Okay. That's how we get the word out. Drop a comment. I want to see some more comments there and some more thumbs up, because we are having these conversations that you need to hear. Now, if we look at what's going on in the Middle East right now, Lord knows what's going to happen. Lord knows. You know, we've got so much going on where there's so much, how can you say it? So much turbulence, right? There's so much turbulence in the Middle East right now. And it'd make you wonder, well, which countries and which nations are kind of stable? And you look at them, like Qatar is kind of stable. You look at Saudi Arabia, they're kind of stable. You look at a couple of different places, they're kind of stable. But what's really going on over there? Can we even have those conversations? No, because in America, what ends up happening is we get distracted by everything that's going on every day in our lives. And it's important that we focus on local issues, that we focus on national issues, but we have concepts of what's going on more so on the national scale. If we don't, I mean, on the international scale, because if we don't have any clue of what's going on, we won't know how the UN is trying to bang us in the behind. We won't know that Syria is over there acting a raw riot of a fool and murdering all types of Christians and stuff like that. And that Syria is even looking like they're going to start causing some problems for Israel, which is dumb, because Israel is the reason why the current administration is in charge in Syria. But apparently a whole bunch of hardliners don't like the fact that this guy, who used to be like one of the heads of ISIS in the area and used to be a member of Al-Qaeda, isn't doing enough. They feel like he's not killing enough Christians. He's not doing enough to stand up to other groups and Israel. And so they're trying to push him out of there. So we'll see, that'll probably come up very, very soon. And it looks like the turmoil is coming to a very serious head. So we'll see what happens after New Year there, because I'm sure that's going to be raw and crazy. So I do want to close with a couple of different topics that I really believe that we need to get more into on the state side level. I'd like to talk about more things, but we only got so much time. So I want to talk about these midterms that are coming up for the elections this coming cycle. I'm concerned, you guys. I am concerned as a card-carrying Republican, as a dyed-in-the-wool Republican, somebody who never intended to be in any party but the party of freedom. I am concerned about our hold on the House of Representatives and on the Senate. I'm not seeing the victories that we need for the everyday people. Like Tim Burchett said in that interview, Congress isn't doing anything. They'd rather name the airports and post offices than actually do the people's work. So that hurts us as Republicans because we're in charge. I'm using air quotes if you're listening on the radio, because we're in charge right now, but nothing seems to be getting done. What's getting done? Oh, well, they're deporting some people. Okay, that's cool. I like that. That sounds good to me. Okay, oh, well, they're bringing huge investments back into the United States. Okay, I hear that. I like that a lot. That means a lot to me. Oh, they're doing some sovereign wealth fund stuff. I like that. I've been advocating for that for years. Okay, but explain to me what you have to write home about. What you are going to tell all of these Republicans that you want to get out and go vote for you. Okay, tell me why these Republicans should vote for you. Because I don't see it. I don't see any. I'm very politically active. I'm very politically involved. And I don't see a real reason for me to vote. Right? Like I might go vote myself, but I'm also in a deep blue area. But that's another conversation. If people don't see that there's any benefit in their daily lives to voting Republican, why would they do it? Why would they do it? And I don't know what's going on with Congress or the Senate. I don't know what's going on with Thune or Johnson. Okay, Thune is in charge of the Senate. Johnson is in charge of the House of Representatives. But they got nothing to give us. They got nothing to give us. The money's still worth less. Okay. People are still out here struggling. Okay. Food prices are a problem. The food industry is a problem. Jobs are a problem. What have you done that I can write home about and I can say, yes, look at what the Republicans are doing so great for you. Okay, illegal aliens are getting deported. I love that. That's a big thing for me. Deport more. Okay, send them all back. As a matter of fact, get rid of most of these visa programs too. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that is not enough to get the everyday Republican out to vote. There is a massive amount of voter apathy, and I don't think people see this. And it's not just with the Republicans, it's with the Democrats too. Democrats aren't coming out and voting. They got a small little teeny tiny Democrat base that's coming out and voting, and that's the only way that they're winning these elections because everybody else is staying at home or because they outweigh the numbers in registration, you know? So that's the only way the Democrats keep winning in these areas. You know, and people say, oh, well, they rigged they gerrymandered, they did this, they did that. Yeah, okay, cool. We know that they did all of this shady, dirty double dealings. You explain to me what Congress has done to do anything about it. I haven't seen anything. Has Congress passed a voter ID bill? No, that didn't happen. I really wanted the constitutional carry reciprocity. Like we got more than enough votes in the House to pass that. We should have enough votes in the Senate to pass that. And then that would not only give us a win for everyday citizens, it would also give the Democrats something to snatch at because then they'd be like, oh, all of this. And then we could pass really whatever we wanted after that because they'd be too distracted with that. But where is that? Right? Where is that? I think somebody has a comment here. Somebody says something. Who's this? Let's see. The Nightman cometh. It says, it's pretty well known that the founders of this country were Freemasons in France during the Revolution, blah, 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 blah. Nonsense. Somebody talking about a whole bunch of nonsense. You got to be more specific when you commenting like that. If you want to go off on a whole diatribe, don't do that, please. Because it's too hard to address a whole history lesson with everybody on air. Okay. But yeah. So this is a serious, serious problem and a serious, serious issue. We just don't have the wins in the House of Representatives or in the Senate to show us that they're doing what we want. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, you tell me where it is. Where is my constitutional carry reciprocity? I want that. That's a big thing. I figured that they could get that done. We got the votes, you know. It's something that we all pretty much agree with. The Second Amendment is strong and we need it, you know. You can get a whole bunch of support from blacks and Latinos on there for that too. Like, are you stupid? Like, why wouldn't you get that done? Like, why wouldn't you get that done? Like, that would be a major piece of legislation to get done. And they're bumping around talking about, oh, well, we're going to do something about the medical and stuff like that. Nobody cares. And I want to say that very openly. Everybody that's going to get on the comments and get mad, be like, oh, we care about our Obamacare and stuff like that. No, you don't. No, you don't. That is not a voting issue. It should be, but it's not. You know why? Because what's happened is these subsidies for things like medical and Obamacare and stuff like that have become so overburdensome that it's draining away all of our tax money, because the people that are in the medical industrial complex can charge whatever they want. They can charge whatever they want. So you say, well, why are your premiums going up? That's why. Because the government keeps giving more and more subsidy. More subsidies from the government equal more problems. More subsidies from the government equal more problems. If we don't have these conversations, what's going to be done? We can do more. We just have to get more done. And we have to demand more from our elected officials. If it doesn't happen now, it will never happen later. And that's probably one of the most important things that we need to impress upon others. If we want Congress to do something, we need to focus on engaging our local congressional individuals. Okay? If you are concerned about the medical, well, you need to go look into why is the medical prices keep going up. But again, like I said, that's not a big issue, because we already have the substructure there, right? Trump's like, oh, we want to do these health accounts. So you're replacing one thing with another thing without addressing the original issue, which is the continued increase in the cost of all of the different goods and stuff like that. This is why there's a problem. This is why people are pushing for socialism, because they don't see anything working in our government. But the more that they push for socialism, and this is the crazy part, the more that they push for the socialism in our country, the more that they disenfranchise themselves and put more power in the hands of government. This is what's happening right now. This is why socialism is so bad. This is why National Socialism is so bad, because their solution is to expand the government. And when you stand up against the government, when these people are in power of the government, what happens? They stomp you down. They push you out. They create a new Holocaust. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they don't want you to actually be able to stand up against the government. They don't want you to be able to operate outside of the government. Because if they feel that you have any power, if they feel that you have any voice, they will get rid of you. This is a continued thing and a continued theme that we see in these socialist countries, in these communist countries, in National Socialist Germany, all of it. It's always the same. They get rid of anybody that they see as a threat. Okay? So when we look at what's going on in our country right now, if we want more done, we need to do everything we can to shrink the government, little by little by little. Even if it's just a small bit by bit. How do you eat an elephant? Piece by piece, bite by bite. And that's how we can make a real difference in this country. Pulling back power from the hands of the government. The more power the government has, the more likely it is to commit atrocities. The more likely it is to commit horrible, grievous acts against its people. We look at what happened in England, right? And you figure 97, they gave up their guns in England, and now they're getting arrested for preaching on the street or for praying on the street or even for their social media posts. You explain to me how that's not like Nazi Germany. Explain it to me like it's 5. What did they do in Nazi Germany? The first thing that they did was they took the guns. They took the guns. We're watching the same thing happen again. And the problem is we got all these people running around calling everybody Nazi, diluting what the actual Nazism was. It was far worse than what people think that it was, because we can't have a complete conversation on it. But we're going to find out, and we're going to find out fast. Okay? We're going to end up like Cuba. We're going to end up worse than Venezuela. If we don't stand up now, nothing will be done. Nothing will be done. Nothing will be changed. So I'm going to leave you with this. As we get ready to get out of here, I encourage you to see what the Republicans are doing, and hopefully you can vote for the Republicans in the midterm and encourage some other people to vote for the Republicans in the midterms, because hopefully after that we can get enough seats to do something. But I got to be honest, I don't really see enough to write home about. We got a couple months left. So before the election. So maybe we can get 2 to 3 solid victories that start to really directly show the people that there is some quality of life issues that they are addressing, and they are big wins. But if we don't get that, I fear very seriously that the Democrats take hold. And now the big difference between the Democrats and the Republicans right now in office is that we see that the Democrats want to push everything to the government immediately, and the Republicans just want to slowly push everything to the government. We got to stop it completely. We can't have any of this big government happening. It's against the founding core tenets of America. It really is. And this is the problem. Why? Why isn't anything being done? Why don't we see anything happening? Why don't we see more people standing up? The people that you see standing up are standing up for people that aren't even from this country. You know, we got people talking about, oh, these influencers are bought off by Qatar. They're standing for Qatar and stuff like this. We got people standing for everybody but the American people. It must be up to us to stand up for the American people, to push back and say, no more big government. We must shrink the government. Government has taken everything from you. We had 24-hour Walmarts and $5 foot-long sandwiches. You know, we had 24-hour gyms. We had a lot of stuff just in the last couple of years that after COVID was crushed. There was more hope then. And I pray that we can restore hope now. That's what I got you guys for today. Please go on this Patreon, Rochester Free Radio, and when you do the donation in the Patreon, make sure that you put the divide. I'll catch you guys later. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. You guys be blessed and be well and stay strong.